The Las Vegas Raiders haven't made any flashy moves in free agency so far, but that doesn't mean they haven't been smart. Instead of overpaying big names, they're taking a calculated approach, targeting players with high potential at a reasonable price. Take Jeremy Chin, for example. The Raiders locked him in for just $7.58 million, a bargain for a versatile defender. Then there's Alex Kappa, a former Pro Bowler on a one-year deal. If he regains his old form, that's a huge win. And let's not forget names like Robert Spillane and Calavan Chaisson, guys who could outperform their contracts and deliver top 10 performances at their positions. But one name flying under the radar, Christian Ellis. The Raiders just hosted him for a visit, and if they land him, he could instantly become their best linebacker. NFL insider Aaron Wilson broke the news, and while many fans might not recognize Ellis, his story is worth paying attention to. Ellis wasn't drafted, just another undrafted free agent, UDFA, overlooked by the league. He bounced around teams, spending time with the Vikings, 49ers, and Eagles, mostly as a practice squad player. His raw talent kept getting him second chances, but he never found the right fit. That changed last year when he landed with a coach who truly understood linebackers, Jared Mayo, a former All-Pro himself. Under Mayo's guidance, Ellis started showing flashes of his true potential. Now, his market value is climbing, rumored to be in the $4 to $5 million range. The question is, will the Raiders make their move before someone else does? By now, most of you know who Jared Mayo is, the former Patriots head coach and a linebacker guru. When Christian Ellis landed in New England under Mayo's leadership, something clicked. He wasn't just another depth piece anymore. He broke out in a big way. Last season, Ellis racked up over 80 tackles, snagged an interception, and made plays all over the field. He was one of the most productive defenders for the Patriots, proving he has what it takes to be a top 10 to 12 linebacker in the league. And let's be real, linebackers don't have decade-long careers like quarterbacks or offensive linemen. The truly dominant ones, like Patrick Willis or Fred Warner, are rare. More often than not, linebackers hit their peak for about 5 or 6 years before they start to fade. Just look at Robert Spillane. He showed flashes with the Steelers, found his rhythm with the Raiders, got paid, and now we wait to see if he can sustain that success. Christian Ellis could follow a similar path, except he's still on the rise. Right now, the Raiders are just bringing him in for a visit. Nothing official yet. He's already met with the Carolina Panthers and will likely have a few more stops before making a decision. But here's the catch. Ellis isn't an unrestricted free agent. The Patriots placed a right of first refusal tender on him. What does that mean? Simple. He can negotiate with any team, but if, say, the Raiders offer him $6 million a year, the Patriots have the right to match that deal. They have until mid-April to decide, and if they do match, he stays in New England. If they don't, he's free to walk. So now the question is, will the Raiders make an offer strong enough to pry him away? The Patriots have already signed a few linebackers this offseason, so there's a real chance they'll let Christian Ellis walk. Their original plan was likely to keep him at the $3 to $25 million tender price, betting on his potential while keeping costs low. If he continued to develop, they could always extend him later. But now, the Raiders, or another team, could easily step in with a better offer. Maybe $5 to $6 million per year on a 2 or 3 year deal, with $12 million guaranteed over the first 2 seasons and a third-year team option. That would be a great value contract for a young linebacker with serious upside. The Panthers have already hosted him. The Raiders have brought him in too, but no official deal yet. The hope? That Las Vegas locks this up within the next few days before another team swoops in. We've seen this strategy work before. Look at Robert Spillane. The Raiders signed him on a bargain deal, and he outperformed expectations in a big way. That's the kind of move that pays off, and that's what GM Tom Telesco and head coach Antonio Pierce seem to be focusing on. Signing guys with upside rather than overpaying for past production? Because let's be honest, big money free agent deals rarely work out. Remember Corey Littleton? The Raiders handed him $14 million a year, and it turned out to be a disaster. Even a guy like Antonio Brown, who was technically a trade, was already on the decline. On the flip side, the Raiders made a calculated gamble on Christian Wilkins this year. Yes, they paid for his past production, but it was still his first non-rookie contract, meaning they're getting him in his prime years. That's why targeting a guy like Christian Ellis makes sense. Young, developing, and still improving. One more quick note. Darnay Holmes is re-signing with the Raiders on a one-year deal. They brought him in last year and now he's back. More details on that soon, but first let's see if the Raiders can close the deal on Christian Ellis before time runs out. The Raiders originally brought in Darnay Holmes either during training camp or preseason, and while he didn't play a ton last year, he did see the field and showed some potential. Now, with a full offseason in the system, he has a chance to develop even further. What's interesting is that defensive coordinator Patrick Graham didn't have to bring Holmes back. He could have gone after any other available cornerback. But instead, he chose to retain Holmes, a sign that he values continuity and scheme familiarity over bringing in fresh faces. That tells us that Graham believes in developing players within his system rather than constantly searching for outside replacements. And let's not forget, Patrick Graham's defensive scheme works. It's a smart, disciplined system, and keeping players who already understand it could be a big advantage. Holmes may not have top-tier potential, but he could be a solid rotational piece and contribute on special teams. Wide receiver situation. Now, let's talk about the Raiders' biggest need, a true X-wide receiver. Everyone knows the Raiders need a big-bodied target on the outside, someone who can win jump balls, beat double coverage, and make tough catches in traffic. They don't necessarily need a true wide receiver one, because Brock Bowers is expected to be a major weapon in the passing game. But they do need a strong physical X receiver to balance out the offense. That's where Tetairoa McMillan comes in. According to Jordan Schultz, McMillan reportedly ran a 4.48-second 40-yard dash, with multiple scouts confirming similar times. For a receiver of his size and skill set, that's huge. McMillan's potential fit. There's been some debate about his quickness and explosiveness, but let's be clear, this guy is massive. Some reports had his height at 6 feet 5 inches and 215 pounds, but the official combine measurements are actually 6 feet 4 and 1/8 inches and 219 pounds. That's still an elite frame for an X receiver. McMillan has huge upside, and if he lands with the right quarterback, he could be a dominant playmaker in the NFL. And with the Raiders holding the 6th overall pick, they might have a real shot at drafting him. If the Raiders want to build a balanced offense, McMillan might be their guy. At this point, it's clear. The Raiders have a solid offensive system, and they need to add the right pieces to take the next step. Tetairoa McMillan remains a real target for them in the draft. Ideally, the Raiders fix their offensive line, but they also need an X-wide receiver and a running back. The good news? They can likely address all three needs within the first 3 rounds. If I'm the Raiders, here's the plan. Round 1, get a starting caliber wide receiver. Round 2, find a strong running back. Round 3, draft a starting level guard. If they hit on those picks, the offense would be set to compete. McMillan's speed and draft stock. McMillan running a 4.48-second 40-yard dash is big news. But here's the catch. He ran it at his pro day, not the NFL Combine. Why does that matter? Pro day times are recorded with hand timers, which are typically faster than the laser-timed Combine results. That means his true speed might be slightly slower, maybe a 4.55 ranged, but still fast enough to check the box. Now, some people think McMillan's stock is falling and that he could be a second-round pick. I won't argue with credible reports, but I'd be shocked if he's not a first-rounder. For me, Travis Hunter is the best wide receiver in this class, and it's not even close. He's an elite playmaker, even more than Ashton DTI, but Hunter and McMillan are very different players. McMillan is your big-bodied X-receiver who can dominate physically. Hunter is more of a versatile offensive weapon with a unique skill set. Both will be impact players, but in different ways. George Pickens and Tom Brady, a trade hint? Now, here's something interesting. George Pickens, the Steelers wide receiver, posted a photo of himself with Tom Brady. This could mean absolutely nothing, maybe just a random shout-out to Brady's greatness. Maybe it was taken at a pro day event Pickens attended, possibly at Georgia, or could it mean something more? Could Pickens be on the trade block? It's just speculation at this point, but in the NFL offseason, even the smallest hints can turn into big moves. The Raiders' offseason plan, key moves to watch. At this point, it's clear. The Raiders have a solid offensive system, and they need to add the right pieces to take the next step. Tetairoa McMillan remains a real target for them in the draft. Ideally, the Raiders fix their offensive line, but they also need an X wide receiver and a running back. The good news? They can likely address all three needs within the first 3 rounds. If I'm the Raiders, here's the plan. Round 1, get a starting caliber wide receiver. Round 2, find a strong running back. Round 3, draft a starting level guard. If they hit on those picks, the offense would be set to compete. McMillan's speed and draft stock. McMillan running a 4.48-second 40-yard dash is big news. But here's the catch. He ran it at his pro day, not the NFL Combine. Why does that matter? Pro day times are recorded with hand timers, which tend to be faster than laser-timed Combine results. That means his true speed might be closer to a 4.55 range, but still fast enough to check the box. Some analysts believe McMillan's stock is falling, and he could be a second-round pick. But I'd be shocked if he's not a first-rounder. For me, Travis Hunter is the best wide receiver in this class, and it's not even close. He's an elite playmaker, even more than Ashton DTI. But Hunter and McMillan are very different players. McMillan is a big-bodied X-receiver who wins with physicality. Hunter is more of a versatile offensive weapon with a unique skill set. Both will be impact players, but in different ways. Is George Pickens on the trade block? Now, here's something interesting. Steelers wide receiver. George Pickens recently posted a photo with Tom Brady. Could it mean nothing? Maybe. Could it mean everything? Possibly. The Steelers have a lot of big contracts to manage. They've already paid guys like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, and they've got young talent like Broderick Jones, Zach Frazier, and Trey Fautanu who will need extensions in the next few years. Pickens? He's going to want $30 million per year, and as talented as he is, Pittsburgh might not have the money to keep him. So, does it make sense for the Raiders to trade for him? Pickens would likely cost a second-round pick, maybe even a first. If the Raiders believe he's their guy, it's worth considering. But trading the 6th overall pick? No way, that's too valuable. Next year's first-round pick? That's a different story. If the Raiders are picking in the bottom 15, they could think about it. Regardless, Pickens' best football is still ahead of him. He just needs a consistent quarterback. The Raiders are building something special. I know not everyone will agree with me. I see all the comments, but this is the best direction the Raiders have had in years. Geno Smith is a solid quarterback. He can get the job done. The coaching staff is competent. The defense is legit. They just need a couple more pieces. What's left? A true number 1 wide receiver. Maybe it's McMillan. Maybe it's Pickens. Maybe they make a move for another big name. A reliable running back. Ashton Jeanty is the best in this class, but the difference between him and guys like Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, or Omarion Hampton isn't huge. A difference maker at guard. Someone to anchor the offensive line alongside Alex Kappa or Dylan Parham. The Raiders don't have the best offensive line, but it's solid. Probably around 15th in the league. That means they won't dominate up front, but they can create opportunities for the right players. I love where the Raiders are headed. They're finally on a real path to success. Now it's about making the right moves to complete the puzzle. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. More Raiders content coming soon.